So if we listen back to this again, just going to close that piano roll. Hi guys, and welcome to this tutorial on how to make beautiful chords really easily in Ableton Live 10.1. We're going to use tools like the Midi effects such as Chord and Scale to turn single notes into luscious chords really easily. For example, we're going to turn this set of notes from into this. So to start with, we're just going to use this. I've already set this up previously, just a Midi channel, added an operator and a glue compressor. Always put a glue compressor on at the end, because as we start to make chords and build them up from a single note, it'll start to clip and distort. So this will just, the glue compressor will become your best friend, because it just, when you turn this soft clip button on, it stops everything from getting past that 0 decibels, which is really useful. So the first thing we're going to do is if we press Command F on a Mac or Control F on Windows if you're using that, I'm just going to search for a chord. This is the Midi effect tool, so it's called Chord, and we can actually search that another way if we just go to Midi effects, and there it is there. So when I just press a note now, it'll still play one note. Obviously if I solo that channel. But it allows us to add 6 extra notes on top or below depending on which semitones we use. Now we're going to create a major chord because it'll become more apparent later on why that's useful for when we start adding the scale tool. So a major triad is first, the major third and the perfect fifth. Now those in semitones are 0, 4 and 7. So the first one I'm just going to add is the fourth semitone. So if we play the note now, so we get that major interval, and then a 7th semitone to fully complete the triad, so that sounds like this now. So it's playing the 0, the 4 and the 7, which is, when you look at that in a scale, that's a major chord. I'm now going to turn this into a major 7th chord, so that's the 11th semitone in the octave. And then I'm just going to add some extra notes just to really fill this chord out. So I'm going to go -12, so that's an octave below the fundamental note. And then I'm going to add the the major third an octave above, which is I'm adding the perfect fifth an octave above, so that's +19. So if we think of an octave as 12 semitones, we just add 12 to that 7. I'm going to put a chart in this a little bit later on so you can see how the notes are an octave below, an octave above and 2 octaves above as well. And then I'm going to add the major third in, which would be 2 octaves above, so that's +28. So when I play this whole chord together now, which with just obviously one note, it'll sound like this. Now at the moment it's playing every single note dependent on the note velocity that I input, all at the same velocity. But this box here on each note allows us to change the ratio of the velocity that's input. So if it's set to 1, it will play the same velocity as the note that's input. But if I go above 1, the note velocity will be louder than is input, and if I go below it, it will be quieter than is input. Now this is really useful because we can start changing the dynamics of the chord, like obviously if you're playing a real piano or keyboard, playing the chords out, you wouldn't be playing every single note at the same velocity. You'd be playing some quieter, some louder, so on and so forth. So with this I can start really changing the tonality of the chord. So I'm just going to start playing through until I find a nice richness for this chord. And in fact I'm just going to turn them all down, which you'll still hear all the notes, but it'll be a lot quieter. And I'm just going to start bringing up the notes to the right loudness that I want them to be. So I think that sounds quite good so far. Obviously, this is something that you can keep experimenting with. If you had a different instrument, you're going to get more timbre and tonality differences. So it can be quite dependent on the instrument that you use. But the next tool we're going to add in, again using Command F, Control F if you're on Windows, is the Scale tool. Now, I'm going to write this in a minor key. So what's quite useful is when you search for scale, is it brings up all of the different types of scales that it's created. And this C minor tool, even though we're not writing in C minor just for now, we're going to start in A minor because that means we only have to use the white notes. We don't have to think about sharps or flats and so on and so forth. And A minor is also the relative minor of C major. So again, we're just using the white keys on the keyboard. Just keeps things simple for now. So again, if you don't understand your music theory too well or you're not too familiar with it, I would really recommend that you go and explore that more, because obviously the more rules you know, the more you can break and bend them and start creating some really unique and interesting music. You're unfortunately limited if you don't know how to use the tools properly. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm actually just going to drag this chord sequence, or note sequence should I say for now, and I did write this in F, but I'm just going to bring it down to, actually I'm going to go up to A. So as we can see, there's no black notes involved, it's all just white keys at the moment, and if we just play this back, you'll hear all of those notes playing together, and obviously with it being put into an A minor scale, all of these notes and chords will sound appropriate to the scale. Because what happens when we add a scale tool after the chord, is this major chord, whenever a minor chord is played, it forces the major third down to a minor third, which is really useful. And again, with the major seventh, it moves that down to a minor seventh as well. So if I just play through all of the notes on the keyboard now, all of those chords are appropriate to the scale. There's no sort of odd notes or anything like that. It's all appropriate. But the cool thing is if you play the wrong note, say, so for example, if I played A sharp instead of A, that chord is still appropriate to the scale, but it started to move these around so they fit into the A minor scale. So it's quite powerful what you can do here. It's a little bit limited because unfortunately you can't use chords that are outside of the scale, but I'm going to show that a little bit later on how we can do that. So the next thing that we do is obviously I want to, instead of just playing the single notes, I want to see what these actually look like on the piano roll. So I'm going to record this out to this piano channel that I've got here. And to do that is I'm going to record on this channel, and I'm going to say, next I'm going to delete the operator because I don't need it anymore, because I'm going to convert this into a piano sound, and I'm going to send the output of this MIDI channel to this piano channel here. So what's really cool, and I can actually show this, if I just create a new piano roll, MIDI region, sorry, and I record on that as well. When I play A, you can actually see that it's showing all of the notes that are played that I created with this chord tool here. So I'll just do that again. So that's really useful. So instead of just having the single note but it playing loads of notes back, you can actually visually see what you're playing, and that'll help you obviously learn more music theory knowledge as well, because the more you do this, the more practice, the more it starts to lock in your brain. So what we're going to do is I'm going to record this set of notes out to this channel, and to do that, I'm just going to go at the beginning, turn the loop off, and then just press record. And shorten that down so it just completes the loop. And now I can turn this off because we're not playing this anymore. Obviously we detached the operator from it. And if we look now, these are all of the notes. And what you can see as well, obviously, because we set up the velocities, some notes are louder and some notes are quieter than others. So we start to get more organic, dynamic feeling chords instead of everything playing at the same velocity. Now obviously what we could do as well is we could go in and we start moving these so it sounds like a real player's playing them. Instead of all of the notes starting exactly the same time, we can start shifting them around so they sound a little bit more realistic. But but for now it's not necessary because it lines up with the beat, and I'm liking the way it sounds. So if we listen back to this again, just going to close that piano roll. Now at the moment this is in A minor, but I tend not to write, especially for drum and bass or electronic kind of music, A sometimes is a little bit too high as a bass note. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight all of these chords. And now I know that the root note is A because we wrote it in A minor, and I'm just going to shift it down to F minor. So now we're in F, and if we listen back to that now. And the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to add the bass line in, and this is quite easy. I'm just going to take the notes that I originally had that were in F, and drag that to this bass channel that I've already set up. Now a slight issue, it does drop down quite low into a range that would be way too low for the sub of this channel, so I'm just going to grab these notes, as you can hear they're way too low. And holding shift down and using an up arrow, it moves it to more of an appropriate octave for this bass note. And if we play all this together, it sounds like this. Right, so the next thing that we can do is we can start extending this out further, and choosing or making different sort of scales and note types and so on and so forth. And one that I prepared earlier, as they used to say on Blue Peter, is this one here. I was starting to make some different types of chords. So this is a major ninth plus, and I can't remember what E and B stands for, but it did mean something to me. So this is an A minor, so if I start playing the A note, so this chord here is being locked into the A minor scale. So again, a different style of chord that we could use. But a cool thing is if you start building a rack up, and obviously leave a comment below if you think or would like to see this as a full tutorial, because this actually takes quite a while to do, but it's really useful what you can do with it. And I just saved one from earlier, which would be, I think, this F minor chords. Let's have a look. Yeah, so if I'm writing in the key of F minor, basically I set up a chain for each different note. So each one of every note that I press is a different type of chord. It's not always the same minor or major chord. I've set up different chords. So for example, I like to write a lot of music in F minor, and I like to use the G flat as well, which isn't actually in F minor, but doing it this way allows me to extend it out. But again, if you'd like to see that as a tutorial, a little bit more of an extension, drop a comment below, and if enough people do it, I'll create a tutorial for it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been useful for you. Again, as a recommendation, obviously when we're starting to work with notes, and if you are sort of new to this and unfamiliar with your music theory, it's really recommended that you start exploring that, because it gives you more tools to use, and you'll start to find rules that you can break and bend to create your own unique and interesting music. But again, as we sort of looked at here, it allows us, using this tool, to sort of look at fully extended chords and see what notes are in those chords as well. So again, yep, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel. There'll be more tutorials coming in the future, but I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi guys, SKETI here. Do you want to learn how to... or how about... or maybe even... well, I'm now giving online one-to-one tuition. The lessons will be entirely centered around what you want to learn. We can cover such things as making drums, bass,
sound design, sidechaining, mixing, composition, music theory, mastering,
and much, much more. Maybe you just want to brush up on your production skills using Ableton Live or Logic, or whatever it is you want to learn. Get in touch on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube to find out more information. Bonus round. Every new student will get a free sample pack of their choice from my Exit Sounds sample label. So if this sounds good to you, and you want your tunes to sound less like and more like, and get in touch to find out prices and book your first lesson now. See you soon.
Everybody jump up, come on!